Oh, geez, I need to actually count you a number because we haven't done an
Mm.
actual numbered. We're back to
Oh
our list for the
God.
first time since July.
Sounds about right.
Something like
Wow.
that.
We come on with Toy Story first, but we haven't recorded that yet. So yeah,
That's on the other list anyway.
right. Oh yeah, that's on the good list. Okay, hold on. I'll do a little countdown and give you the number. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91. Number 90.
Okay. Wait, I have to look up something.
Okay.
There
You
we
just
go.
you seem to have a lack of confidence that you usually don't have when it seems time to start.
Mariska Hargitay. In at number 90, we're back to watching terrible films for our own bizarre reasons with The Love Guru.
That's right. It's Films and Filth, the Citizen Kane of podcasting. We're on the Filth list for the first time in a long time, so that's exciting. We'll
Yep.
see how exciting this movie is.
We haven't been here for a long time. We're not here for a good time.
Okay, that sounds about right. Roll call. We can do it Bible style if you want. Who's
Tom
here?
Servo.
It's Matt.
Mark.
Luke.
John.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Holy.
So many kinds of religion here. We have whatever the religion is in the Love Guru. Let's
That's
decide
charlatanism.
let's decide not to call that. Do it somewhere off the bat.
A movie that proves that there is no God and the universe is not just.
So
it's just
this
capitalism.
this gave you more dread than the Space 1999 we watched. Okay.
Oh my God, that was truly Shakespearean compared to this. Yes.
I guess the best place to start is to take everyone's Mike Myers temperature because I think that's an important thing with this being a key moment in his career. For me, I'll defend the Wayne's Worlds, especially Wayne's World 2, which I watch more regularly than I should admit to. I know people don't like it. I do. I'm weird. I also like Anchorman 2 better than Anchorman 1. It's the world I live in. Austin Powers, I saw all of them in theaters, 2 and 3 opening night. I don't know. I actually watched a bit of the Shy Who Spagged Me, the Spy Who Shagged Me a bit last night, which I guess is probably the worst of the Austin Powers movies. And after Love Guru, it seemed like pretty epic or something. I guess. I'd just come back from Japan when the Love Guru was in the theaters, and the writing was very clearly on the wall not to see it, so I never saw it till a couple nights ago. But yeah, that's my Mike Myers temperature. Love Wayne. I can take or leave Austin depending on mood, and then there's some amazing moment where he just shot his career in the foot as hard as he could. That's where I am. So, Mark, I feel like you're more on the Austin Powers hate team.
I don't hate Austin Powers. I kind of hate Mike Myers because of the whole thing where he stole Dana Carvey's joke, and I'm more of a Dana Carvey fan. And also, he just cannot commit to a bit ever, except Shrek. He's great as Shrek. I don't know how to explain this. And also, well, Wayne's World was made by an absolute visionary, Penelope Spheris. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't have succeeded without her, but it is transcendent because of her. And I think Wayne's World 2 at least does a good job of emulating that. But that said, I did see all the Austin Powers movies in the theater and laughed at all of them. So I don't know what I'm even talking about.
Okay, maybe I'm mistaking you for someone else. What is the Dana Carvey joke? Because you mentioned that to me yesterday. Is that Dr. Evil?
Oh,
it's a Lorne Michaels impression?
It's the Lorne Michaels impression. And also, there was just a lot of ass fuckery behind the scenes where Mike Myers was trying to get Dana Carvey's lines cut a lot in the Wayne's World films.
The reason Spheris wasn't on the second one is because they had such a bad time together on the first one.
Yeah, so he chased away the one of the best directors that they possibly could have gotten, probably the best director that's ever done an SNL related film. Anyway, he's probably a fucker, but sometimes he's funny. I don't know. Sometimes in this he's funny. There are things I laugh at, but then it frustrates me that he can't just. But reading about, I'll get to this later. I read about it, his motivation behind making this film, and it's because he loves Deepak Chopra.
Okay, that's
Genuinely.
cool. He didn't show it very well, but whatever.
If he'd made this from a place of hate, I think it would have been actually an excellent movie.
Let's keep on this side of the pond because I'm Luke and Austin Powers is really I don't think we've ever had a discussion. So let's go to John first.
All right.
Your Mike Myers temperature.
Yeah, so I am a Mike Myers fan and I'm an Austin Powers fan, although the Austin Powers movies got worse when they decided to make sequels. I think the characters and the cleverness came back a bit in Goldmember, but Spy Who Shagged Me was just too much too soon. I do think that Mike Myers is at his best when he is sort of the unsung non-spotlight character, though. So when he shows up in like a Quentin Tarantino movie as a Scottish general or something, that's great. Like it's a surprise. He does have this ability to lose himself in a role when it's not something that he created. He's doing the jokes. It's precious to him. He just gets to inhabit this character for a moment. And I wish that we got more out of him that was, dramatic or quasi dramatic, because I think he can do it. I think he can deliver. And there are just a small handful of things that I think work in this movie, which I'll get to. That is again just a very very small handful, but it shows where Mike Myers' mind is when he's good. There's just not a lot in this particular movie that's very good. And I think it's easy to burn out when there's just too much of him. When there's too much Wayne, that got overplayed on Saturday Night Live. I think that, yes, Wayne's World 2 is a perfectly fine sequel, but it didn't need a sequel. Austin Powers, I think, needed at least one sequel because the James Bond movies had sequels, the Flint movies had sequels, the Mad Hell movies had sequels. And I think there was more to mine there. I also happen to think that the Austin Powers movies, of all the pantheon of James Bond parodies, that's one of the few that is really the most literate. It's sort of like what Airplane did with all of the airplane disaster movies they were aping. You could tell that they really got the source material and studied it and loved it. And that's something that I appreciate about his touch on Austin Powers. Oh, and by the way, Mark, in his defense, I will say that apparently everybody who has ever worked with Lorne Michaels has a Lorne Michaels impression. So he may very well have stolen his from Dana Carvey, and I've heard a little bit of that stuff as well. But yeah, apparently, I mean, like if you listen to Rob Lowe's podcast, he does a Lorne Michaels, and then anybody who is on SNL, he gets them to do their Lorne Michaels, which is always fun.
It's true on Conan O'Brien's podcast. Literally everyone who has ever worked in Saturday Night Live who goes on there does a Lorne Michaels impression. They're all
That's
they're all
awesome.
pretty similar. That is fair.
Yeah, they're all kind of Dr. Evil, right? Right.
Yeah.
Since Lorne Michaels isn't actually on screen that often, we know the impressions better than we know the guy at this point, which is kind of fun.
Right. Right. But honestly, and that's something that Dana Carvey, back to your favorite, who I also love, that he's really astute in pointing out, is that at a certain point, the impression of anybody, George Bush, whatever, overtakes the actual person, because that the comedian's job, at least the way that like Dana Carvey does something, or Martin Short or whomever, they're just finding this really minuscule mannerism or quirk or vocal inflection and just blowing it up to the 1000th degree. But then that's what people remember, and that's what all of us amateurs imitate as well.
And we'll see how we feel about Dana Carvey once we get to the Master of Disguise and at some
Oh,
point.
yeah.
yes.
Gotta put these two against each other. That's way down the list, isn't it?
Wow.
Okay, Luke, I definitely am curious about the UK perspective or your perspective on the Mike Myers thing.
Um, I remember also that I'm a bit younger than you guys. So when I was growing up, Austin Powers was like the movie that we all wanted to see, and like the tapes would get passed around because we weren't actually old enough to go and see them at the theaters. But no, Austin Powers is great. That's beloved in the UK too, because like John said, it's a really good James Bond parody. So yeah, no beef with Austin Powers. To me, I watched Dwayne's World as a kid because my dad was into it, so I've seen those quite a few times. I like the Wayne's World movies, but to my generation, Mike Myers is Shrek. He's
Yeah.
beloved cultural icon Shrek. So
Oh,
that's my
before we
main
start,
Mike Myers thing. I love Mike Myers because he brought me like one of the biggest characters of my youth.
and before we get too deep into the Love Guru, let's not forget So I Married an Axe Murderer, which is a pretty entertaining movie that's mostly forgotten. Although the TV
Well-
series he just did is technically a follow-up to it or something. The
I don't
Tablet
think
or
that
something.
I don't think a lot of people love that film, but it is technically Mike Myers playing himself. So in that film, he absolutely does commit to the character.
Right.
And that's another one where, to me, the standout is him playing his Scottish father. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the smaller role that is just so specific, where again, you just let him actually inhabit the character and be that for a minute, and instead of putting the spotlight on what is supposed to be the star of that film, him. And I think he really shines in a role like that.
Yeah.
Let's
I mean,
turn our.
I
go
will.
ahead.
I just should say before you keep saying this, he's not good at Scottish accents.
Okay. That's a good that's a good
He's very funny, but he's not good at sounding Scottish. He never
Okay.
sounds Scottish.
How about Alan Hale, who did Scrooge McDuck? Was he good at Scottish accents?
He was all right. Like
Okay.
now they have David Tennant playing Scrooge McDuck,
All right.
and he does a pretty similar accent, so I guess it wasn't that bad.
And he's pretty Scottish. Yeah. I think yeah, his family background is from Scotland. I mean, obviously he grew up in Canada, but I think he always said that his he was doing his grandfather's voice or something when he was with it. But again, that's like Walter Koenig. Everybody says, "Oh, his Russian accent is terrible, terrible, terrible," but he's like, I'm doing my father's accent, and he's Russian, So
I still think he's better than the Russians in Grand Theft Auto 4. Who are all Americans doing Russian accent. Cousin, let's go bowling. Anyway.
Or maybe it's
Now
not
we're
that
way
Mike
off
Myers
track.
is bad at Scottish. Maybe it's just that he's responsible for a wave of other people trying to do that accent.
right,
Yeah. What Scotland hates.
I always consider
Although,
that one of
to be fair, as long as we're talking about Russians, a Russian friend of mine, I exposed her to Walter Koenig's accent, then to the two actors who have played Ilya Kuryakin in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., David McCallum and Armie Hammer, and then finally to Anton Yelchin as a newer age Chekhov. She thought the first three absolutely terrible. Chekhov, she goes, or Anton Yelchin, she's like, that sounds like a Russian trying to speak English. So he, rest his soul. Apparently, he's the one who nailed it. Yeah.
Have I ever mentioned my dumbest date ever while we're on the Russians?
Yeah,
It's
yes,
for-
you've mentioned this date many times, Matt.
Okay, not for a while though. Not for a while, but
You
Go
bring
on. I know
condom?
you're gonna do it.
You
Don't
bring
do it.
condom? Is
okay.
that what it was? You bring condom?
Now I have to say
Oh
it.
my God.
That I took her to see K-19 The Widowmaker because I'm like, oh, they speak Russian in that, so it'll be like.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
anyway, bad date movie. Here's a
Okay.
story
That's
of the
great.
Love Guru. I'll do a quick summary of that guy, and we'll think about him a little bit deeper. The Guru Pitka is a guru second only to Deepak Chopra. He was an American orphan adrift in India when he came under the tutelage of Guru Tuggamai Putta at age 12. Pitka travels to Canada to help reunite an estranged superstar hockey couple. Doing so will win them the Stanley Cup, will win Pitka a spot on Oprah, and put him in the same league as Chopra. He becomes attracted to young Maple Leafs owner Jane, but is hampered by the chastity belt he has worn since age 12. He works with the hockey star Darren in an attempt to get him to overcome his fears by facing his mother, and butts heads with Lecoq, the arrogant hockey star who has run off with Darren's lady. Pitka takes shortcuts to reunite the couple, which has short-term positive effects, but is disastrous in the long run. Pitka abandons his newly won Oprah spot to return to the rink and guru properly, which apparently involves elephant sex. He returns to India with Jane and is finally shorn of his chastity belt, which allows the couple to stage a Bollywood-style musical number. Okay, there we go. I guess we'll start with the things we liked about the movie. I should grab my phone for this. Oh, go ahead.
The thing I liked the most was, interestingly, Jim Gaffigan and Stephen Colbert as the announcers. And interestingly,
Oh, they are great.
recorded their bits during a writer's strike, so they had to improvise everything they did.
Huh, nice.
So, very topical right this second.
Yeah, any sports comedies always seem to knock it out the park with the commentators.
Yeah.
Like Dodgeball,
I mean,
the commentators were great.
I think Dodgeball is the gold standard for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that.
No, I genuinely was laughing a lot during this film. Like, it had jokes and they landed. It's like stripped of context.
Please describe one.
There was the bull gazer gag gets me because I'm a child. There was lots of stupid little puns.
Yeah.
There was what was the joke with do you know Dick Shrivels at 85? It's like, because it does.
Right.
But they were all really dumb little jokes like that. The problem was everything that was actually about being a guru was horrible and racist.
Yeah. It was
like,
racist, and also
Mike Myers was just doing Mike Myers. I hated the bits that were to do with what the film was meant to be about.
What I liked were the book titles that come up in the first 15 minutes, which are
the book titles were good. Yeah, that's another good joke.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Why are you still hitting yourself? That's good. If you're happy and you know it, think again. I like that. Does it hurt when you do that? Don't do that. The ultimate the ultimate something that will change your life. Sorry, I'm looking at a bad quality picture of it, but yeah, I laughed at those. That's what I thought. And yeah, of course the announcer is great, especially the I'm on drugs again. That was fantastic.
The delivery on the book jokes was good. Just that he always has one at the ready, and it's always the right title for the like that was a good running gag to have in there. Sportscasters were terrific. I actually liked the first Bollywood scene where he first lays eyes on the Jessica Alba character, and you just cut away to the sort of romantic vision in his head of them singing, because there was no warning about that. We haven't yet established that this is a thing that happens in this movie, and Bollywood is a thing, and I always like a good style parody that you can just drop into a movie, as opposed to, say, just opening with a sitar version of 9 to 5, because that if there's a joke in there, that joke is about a quarter of a second of like, oh look, he's doing 9 to 5 on a sitar, oh wait, he's actually going to do the whole thing, and then we get another song at the end. Like that stuff speaks to what I think a big part of the comedic problem is in this movie. It's all these residual jokes that don't actually add up to, I don't know, a story or characters or drama or motivation that we actually care about. So I appreciate it that Mike Myers' mind apparently works this way, where it's just like, oh, look, here's an accent here, and here's a joke here, and here's something dumb that I heard when I was a 12-year-old. And these are all the things rattling around in his brain. And sometimes you can take that and build characters and story out of it, like Austin Powers. And times like this, they just feel completely honestly from the moment the movie started, and we just sort of had to buy the reality of the character. I just did not buy the reality of the character at all. So that prevented me from feeling like I was a part of the story. So
I think that goes to what Mark was saying, that maybe if this film had had a bit more bite to it, if they'd been more like
yes.
satirizing these gurus who are full of it and, you know,
Oh
a
my
fake,
god,
fake
I mean, like,
spirituality, this could have
that
been a
is
great comedy.
exactly the note that I took about this whole thing, is that I was waiting for something here that really was a satire. Like I think there's a little bit of that implied, just because he is so clearly filthy rich and he can just go to a new city, and then suddenly his ashram is this huge, multi-million dollar palatial place. So you're kind of in on the joke, like, oh yeah, these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, but the advice is really dumb.
Mm,
But there's nothing beyond that. Like,
right. Well,
and
because ultimately it works.
yeah,
well, I mean, that sort of works as a joke, but
No, but I mean,
but
ultimately, his system works. He
that's
fixes the
sure.
guy. So
But it's like this thing where
yeah,
when he asks the hockey guy to not fight anyone and then has him fight everyone, that,
right.
like, that whole thing, if they just put something in there where he was taking the distraction and going to like steal money from the team or something like that, it just felt like a couple of times he was sowing chaos, because I guess because that was a method or something, but it didn't ever
Mm.
feel like he really believed, he bought into his own methods, yet at the same
We
time,
don't know anything that he believes. We really
mm,
don't.
yeah, he just
Yeah.
wants to be on Oprah, and you don't even really know how much he really wants to be on Oprah, or if that's just because he wants to get laid, because he wants Oprah, because he wants his chastity belt
He wants
removed. I wasn't
Oprah.
even really clear on that. If
Yeah,
Oprah
just
had
the
removed his chastity
introduction.
belt, that would have been cool, but they didn't do that.
Yes.
yeah, but
Yeah.
Oprah's too good to be in a Mike Myers movie.
So Celine
It was a
Dion.
scheduling. It was a scheduling conflict for both
Yeah.
of them, actually.
Oh, was
Yeah.
she too
Like,
busy buying up land in Hawaii to steal from the natives?
like
There you
Mike
go.
Myers. Apparently, Mike Myers was so big that they weren't even really saying no to him, except they didn't have time to do it.
Mm.
I was
At
wondering
the
because
time.
if you remember the opening scene of Goldmember, which has everyone in the world because he was culturally that important at the time that
Yeah.
everybody wanted to be in the opening scene of Goldmember. Where I mean, we got a few people here, yeah, but yeah, Celine is clearly not actually Celine. I guess we should talk about some of the other actors a bit. I did decide that we should retroactively take back Ben Kingsley's Gandhi actor Oscar.
I think he redeemed this by doing Iron Man 3.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
right. He was really good in the whatever Marvel stuff that I've seen him in. I can't remember any of the names of it, but
He was in Iron Man and then he was in Shang-Chi.
he was consistently a bright point in whatever the hell he was in.
But
Oh, yeah,
not
because they
this.
were that was actually parodying this kind of character instead of
Yes.
just doing one wholesale.
Mhm. Yeah, he's parodying a terrorist, which is super
But we're
fun.
also parodying getting
Well,
Ben Kingsley to play Middle Eastern people all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
There you go. But even with Ben Kingsley, like it's just sort of a dumb sight gag that he's
Mm.
cross-eyed. Like what does that serve at all? Nothing. It's like, oh, this is funny. I'll just cross my eyes through the whole thing. That doesn't help anything. It doesn't serve
Yeah.
anything or anybody other than just like, let's try to squeeze in as many dumb gags as we can. So I felt really bad for Ben Kingsley. I felt, well, look, I can't feel too bad for him. He got the paycheck.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
It felt like he was stealing from Kung Pao Enter the Fist, which is a much funnier movie than this,
there you go. Yep.
yeah.
in my
So
opinion.
this film obviously dive bombed Mike Myers' career, but it's kind of his own fault. Did this film also end Jessica Alba's career?
She became a businesswoman.
No, she's doing great.
Did she?
She's doing
Oh,
better than
okay.
any mere actors at this point.
Uh-huh.
What is her business? I didn't even know that.
Actually, I should look that up, but I
She a
know that
guru?
Influencer
she's
stuff.
a guru now. Yeah.
She's
Um,
a self-help guru. Yeah,
I think
brilliant.
Fantastic Four may have tanked your career more than this did, and that was, or maybe that was before this.
yeah, she's
I
just
feel
kind
like
of
that was
here.
before this.
I don't know. She's in
Or released
a
around the
lot
same
of
time.
stuff recently.
She was in a lot of stuff, and then she was in nothing ever again. That's my
She was
point.
in she's in the Machete Kills.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. She co-founded the Honest Company, a consumer goods company that sells baby, personal, and household products. So something
okay.
that probably makes real money.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So
Absolutely.
we don't need to feel too bad for her.
She was in Little Fuckers,
Oh, okay. What year was that?
2010.
Okay, well that's not too long after. But
I
yeah,
didn't even know they made a sequel to Meet the Fuckers called Little Fuckers.
I know they did, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's a 5.5, so we're not going to watch for this podcast.
Entirely too upscale.
How about JT in this film? I guess that's while we're going over other actors. I felt like if you could put him in Dodgeball, maybe it works. I don't know.
So he plays in this character like Jacques Lecoq Grandet with a big dick. Recently, Britney Spears has come out and said that Justin Timberlake has a very small dick.
That makes this retroactively funnier.
It makes it much funnier, yeah. Yeah, I like to imagine that wasn't in the script, and Justin Timberlake's like, listen, my character has a huge cock. That needs to be key. That needs to be key to the plot of the film.
You know what I like even better is that Mike Myers hears it from someone else that he has a small cock, and he puts it in the movie knowing that Justin Timberlake won't say anything.
That's pretty funny too.
There we go. There we go.
That's my fan fiction. Sorry, we're going on about Vern Troyer. I was kind of uncomfortable with the amount of little people jokes in this movie.
It was a lot.
I'm sure he co-signed on this, like he signed off on all of it, but
that just means that that's the roles he could get back in the day, right? I liked his little gag in the bloopers at the end.
Yes, yeah. But again, it just seems like all the leftover jokes from Austin Powers that they didn't have room for with Mini-Me. So, okay, well, these didn't land there. Just toss them in this movie. And at least with Austin Powers, there is this really bizarre, interesting reason for him to exist. And in this, there isn't. Again,
when Austin Powers said something a little bit offensive, he was a man out of time. That was part of the joke.
True.
We were laughing at him. Here, he's not. He's meant to be like the good guy. It's set in the modern day. He's got no excuse. He's just a bigot when he says homophobic things and racist things and ableist things throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just late 90s, early. Wait, what year was this? Like 2009?
2008. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
I love the set
for being of its time, but no, its time was not that long ago.
The set of the tiny office. Yes, that was good.
Oh yeah,
So
I did like the tiny office, especially how you just destroy it by moving through it.
Yeah. The line that really just made me go like, holy shit, was when he's insulting the guy. This isn't a Vern Troyer one, but he's insulting the hockey player's outfit. He's like, what's wrong with gator skin? And he literally just says, more like gay skin.
Yeah, that's
right.
Why did that character say that? That doesn't make any sense.
There was the Bangkok joke in 2008. A little late to put that
will always be funny.
That just was so slow. It took so long for that joke to execute. That's what pissed me off about it. Just like, oh, and he said, "Ow, my balls."
Also, he's wearing a metal chastity belt. How did he get punched in the balls?
Point.
Plot hole, 0 stars.
It's a thought that counts.
I'm gonna look for a review that says plot hole.
Why would his guru in India have a chastity belt to apply to the 12-year-old guru in training?
Also, is it made from unstable molecules? Did it grow with him?
It grew.
That's true.
He looked like CGI jelly when they show the 12-year-old version, which was funny.
That was really funny. I thought that was a good gag. Just putting Mike Myers' head on a child.
That's using bad CGI to great effect.
yeah, and obviously purposeful, So I'm okay with that. At least we're all in on the joke on that one. It's weird, like you can't do that again. You get your one shot to do it like that, and then move on.
I don't. There were a few jokes I straight up didn't understand.
Hmm.
Stink mop seemed offensive, and I couldn't figure out why.
I think it was just a word.
Yeah, I think it was not offensive, just like again, just dumb. It's like the dumbest thing that somebody just comes up with, and how that made it through writers, editors, friends of the talented people who made this movie. Go, oh, no, commit to that bit, commit to that, and make sure that you get that on film and take up a chunk.
The problem just seems to be that Mike Myers' career had reached the point where no one could say no to him.
Yeah.
But his ideas had reached the point where he was kind of running out.
Yeah, Phantom Menace syndrome.
So we just end up with the worst possible movie where everyone says yes, but he's not actually coming up with good ideas.
Makes sense.
See, I wonder about that though. With he had a good working relationship with. Did Jay Roach have anything to do with this one? I forget.
I don't believe so. But yeah, he did all the Powers.
It seems like that combination working on the Austin Powers movies really worked. And somebody as talented as I think Mike Myers is should also realize that you have to at least have some people in your creative sphere who can sort of check you back into place when you're developing a script or developing a movie. I mean, Martin Scorsese had to have Thelma Shoemaker. Somebody as talented as that has to have somebody else's eyes on the work at some point. And when you hear something about like Mike Myers not doing a Sprockets movie, and I loved Dieter and I loved Sprockets on Saturday Night Live, but he was under contract with I want to say Universal for like a dozen years or something to do this movie, and he didn't do it because the perfectionist in him said like I can't do this right and make it into a feature-length movie, and I won't do it if I can't do it right. And so I wonder, how do you go from that to then the Love Guru, where it's just like every bad choice possible is right there on screen?
I did check. Jay Roach was smart enough to stay away from this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the director of this film has one directing credit, and it's this film.
And the co-writer,
I guess there was no one to push back. Is he produced on the Austin Powers films? So I think it seems like maybe he was just a Mike Myers yes man.
Well, and the co-writer's name is Graham Gordy, and it looks like he had one credit before this and 5 or 6 after, and almost all of it's drama. All of his credits are drama. It's weird.
Wow,
that brings the weight in this film. I don't
True
know.
Detective. He wrote episodes of True Detective. Like what?
Oh my God.
Well, this is just me reading the wiki, but apparently Myers wanted to make a hockey movie, which I think if this were a hockey movie, it would have worked.
It is a hockey movie, though. That's the
Guru,
whole thing. That's part of the problem.
The Guru could have been like a fat bastard-sized character. In that version, I'm not quite sure what Mike Myers' lead role is, but like if the Guru is like in the movie for like 5 minutes and makes a couple dumb jokes, I mean, you'd still be like, gee, is this guy offensive? But you could probably, you might have a better movie. I don't know.
I just
maybe.
don't know what.
But then, maybe it would be more offensive if it's just a bit part and you don't go into it. I don't know. Because then you'd be thinking, wait, is he actually trying to play an Indian here?
Well, and that's the thing that I like. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt in certain places, certain choices, trying really hard and think like, okay, Mike Myers clearly appreciates these kind of like cultural mashups. I mean, look at the Austin Powers movies where you've got Austin Powers, this very specific character from this very specific time, but then he has to encounter people with completely different, coming from completely different places in the world, like Miss Kensington, and then even Basil ages over time into, you know, a different sort of man in a different time. And a guy like Dr. Evil, a guy like Fat Bastard, you know, all have these very distinct backgrounds that they're bringing to it. And to me, Mike Myers seems like a guy who's very interested in these quirky cultural specifics and time appropriate specifics that that then get thrown into the blender together. And I look at a movie like this and okay, all right, you probably watched some Bollywood movies, you read some Deepak Chopra books, you maybe did a light skimming of the surface of some interesting Indian cultural quirks that impressed you, and then you try to sort of mash that up with some you know, Americanisms and some Canadianisms. But we're on to you, Mike. We know that you're really into your Canadian background. We know you're really into hockey. So at the end, is this just an excuse to go spend some time around hockey players because that's what you like? And that, in the end, doesn't really add up to a movie. That's just you being self-indulgent.
Yeah, I don't know. Does Adam Sandler do that better? I want to spend a month with my friends in Hawaii, so we're making
Yeah.
a
At
movie.
least with
Doesn't
Adam Sandler,
care.
we all know that's what
Yeah.
he's doing, so we just don't watch the films.
And
But then
Yeah,
those
like-
films should be on this list more than this should. That's the. It always comes down to that when we do these. At least at this end of the list, I'm sure it'll be different when we get to like the worst 50. I'm always wondering, why is this film on the list of the bottom 100 films of all time? Because it's not. It's mediocre, with some good gags. I think it's because of its reputation that it messed up Mike Myers' career. But it's still better than 9 out of 10 comedies that come out.
I think it's probably the funniest just joke for joke, pound for pound, the funniest comedy we've watched that's been on the bad list so far. Would you guys disagree?
Well, some nights Stan Helsing, you're like, I never really expected anyone here to be sort of, like, you didn't expect any real talent in Stan Helsing, right?
But I
That's
thought
true.
the
Maybe
joke
I
is-
laughed. I did laugh a lot at Stan Helsing, perhaps because I wasn't expecting to.
Right, and you
Yeah,
come
I
into
mean-
this movie with a bit of an attitude because you're like, oh my God, this destroyed like a relatively culturally important guy's career, like obliterated it pretty much. So
I think I only laughed in this during the sportscasters bits, maybe a little bit with the book jokes, and I think maybe the first time Mariska Hargitay became the greeting, because I remember hearing Mike Myers drop that in like it was like a stand-up thing or an interview or something, and he just sort of dropped that as like, oh, that sounds like a greeting in Punjabi or Hindi or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a funny bit. Yeah, I get it. But then when you overplay that bit constantly during, and that's one of the sins that this movie perpetrates, is that they do the joke and then they keep doing the joke. And I'm sorry, but you only get threes. And then in other instances, they stop to explain the joke to you. And that I absolutely cannot stand. So when it's Mariska Hargitay saying that is the joke because it sounds like something that to an untrained ear sounds like a foreign language, okay, fine. And then you have Mariska Hargitay there at some point. Okay, all right, that's funny. But then when you just keep playing out the joke, like, no, here's the model of the building, and I'm going to push the button that makes the sound from Law and Order, just in case you didn't get it. Like, can we just slow down? Can we have a little bit of efficiency with our jokes and move on to something that's a little more meaningful to the movie?
So what's going to make you twitch harder from here on out, Mariska Hargitay or DS9's Al Moraine?
Well, we got that a lot for 1 hour, and then in this we got it a lot for an hour and a half. I don't know. I might watch.
Yeah.
I might be more likely
I
to watch
didn't
that
know
again.
who Mariska Hargitay was, so I had to I briefly looked up, like, is this a real phrase? And then I realized, oh, it's the actress who showed up. Now I get
Yeah,
it.
Jane Mansfield's daughter.
But then I learned a fun fact. Matt, do you remember we watched the 1995 Power Rangers movie?
Yeah.
You remember they go to the alien planet with the bikini-clad lady who gives them their new powers?
Is that her?
No, it was gonna be her, and then she
Oh.
filmed half the scenes, and then she went home for Christmas without telling anyone, and they fired her.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Wow, good for her. Wow.
She went
One
on
of-
strike.
One
Uh,
of you're talking about how the jokes get past the rule of threes in here, but I think Mike Myers is one of the only guys that does it over franchises. Like we actually get Wayne's World and Austin Power jokes like redone here, which is weird.
I was very annoyed
Mhm.
by the Bohemian Rhapsody in the car joke. I was
Terrible.
There's no
Terrible.
point in that except he's gonna wink at you and be like, "Yeah, remember that? Remember when you went to
Remember this
the movies?
better
That
movie?
happened?"
Remember when you enjoyed watching my movie?
Fun fact: when I saw that movie, I was 14, and I thought that Bohemian Rhapsody was a song made for that movie. I had no idea. I had no idea the song existed before that.
That's what just
What older
1991.
you thought in the colonies, isn't it?
that's what
Yeah.
got Queen back on the American charts, isn't it?
Ay.
Maybe I thought they just did "We Will Rock You." And anyway, did anybody else feel like you were laughing, just in general, laughing less and less as the movie went on? Because I felt
Definitely.
like I wasn't
Yeah.
intentionally, I wasn't like consciously saying I'm getting tired of this, but I found myself just laughing less and less. And when the elephants had sex, I just didn't laugh at all. I'm like,
But
it should be funny, right?
with better hands, that could have been a great crescendo, right? But yeah, I was
Yeah.
over it, kind of.
The rhythm was off. Maybe it was
The-
that
the
one
things
guy
that
who
were-
directed that one thing.
Yeah. The things that were funny at first was us getting to know the pattern. Like things were new. So saying Mariska Hargitay once and hearing the response once, like that was funny. And the reveal of the book titles and the little his little aphorisms and the every time you see like a PowerPoint slide behind him, like seeing that once early, that was clever. But then when you realize they were going to use those same jokes over and over and over again, and then really have to speed up what happens in the end, because you got to wrap this up. You have to resolve all the relationships. You have to resolve that the team will win and how and why. Then it's just a race to the end. And honestly, when we started this, all right, look, I knew it was going to be a bad movie, but I also knew that I liked Mike Myers, and I looked at the player in Paramount Plus as soon as it started up, and it was like, okay, an hour and 27 minutes minus a few minutes for credits. I'm like, gold, great. This is going to take about an hour 20 plus minutes of my life, no problem at all. And then it just felt like a chore to get anything past the opening 15 minutes of this movie, 15 20 minutes. I was just like, this feels like this is taking me 3 weeks to get through right now.
Yeah,
I think
for me, it took longer. It wasn't as quick as that I went off it. I got about halfway through the movie.
And then he sneezed.
Yeah.
And then he sneezed.
I got about halfway through the movie and then took a phone call from my girlfriend. And then the second half, any like small amount of enjoyment I'd been finding in it, whether that was laughing at the actual jokes, I was kind of laughing at the film just because of how badly it had aged as well. Just like, oh my God, all these small person jokes, all these gay jokes, all these slightly racist jokes. So I was getting some amusement out of watching the film. And then I went back and watched that second half and it was just gone. And the entire second half, I don't think I laughed.
Yeah.
Except for the
So like
Sportscasters.
there was like a spell got broken between watching the first half and watching the second, where I was just seeing the film for what it is, and it's just not that funny.
I think I did it in 3 30-minute chunks, and after the last 30 minutes, I watched The Killer in its entirety. So that was a straight through-er. So yeah, okay, that's where the love guru sits.
I watched
Something
this all the way through because I started 2 hours ago.
There you go.
I watched it all last night. Yeah,
I started early because I knew I might want to chunk it up a bit, which I did.
Good plan.
yeah I wanted to
Good
chunk
move.
up watching this film, if you know what I mean.
I don't even know if this one's a recurring joke. The all the product placement, because Wayne's World made that like a very funny joke, and here they're beating us over the heads with Altoids, Cinnabon. Was there something else? Those are the ones that I at least wrote down.
The Altoids joke
kind of
I
a funny
liked
joke.
because like the idea of the Altoid breath mints elbow to the face of the match.
Yeah.
That is legitimately a joke. But then there was also just a lot of actual product placement. Well, especially because it's a sports movie, right? So there's just Xbox and PlayStation adverts behind them all the time.
Oh yeah,
I saw
there's
an ad for a PSP. I was like, oh man, that dates it.
That's why I knew this film was old.
Right.
We're like 2 dead consoles past that now.
So I guess we do need to consider where this is being films or filth. We'll bring our guest in first. John, how do you want to put this one? Is it filthy? Is it filmic? Do you have another word you want to invent?
It's so filth-tastic. It is such a piece of trash in Mike Myers's storied career, and that's unfortunate because, like I said, I think that he is underappreciated for what he does very well. Like, yeah, a character like Wayne, a character like Austin Powers, those are going to break out. Those will become the pop culture recognizable phenomena. But I think he's so good when he's allowed to be subtle. And the fact that this movie torpedoed his career to the extent that we even get less and less of the subtle Mike Myers is really unfortunate because he is good. I mean, it's not like he's one of the failures of Saturday Night Live. He's one of the breakout stars of Saturday Night Live for a reason. You know, he was able to do things that connected with the audience in a very quick, very fun way on that show. I hate that this is something that it probably prevents him from being the star and writer of something in the future, because I want to think that he's got one more in him. I know I'll never get the Sprockets movie that I want. But you know, if somebody said, no, you can really go make a terrific movie again, just you need to do it with somebody like Jay Roach, or you need to do it with somebody who can be a writing partner with you and really shape something to be great again. This movie was painful to get through for me. Like I said, I did laugh every now and then. I wanted to like the premise. That was a failure. I wanted to just like the gags. That was a failure. I wanted to like the characters. And that was a failure too. I am going to be very contrarian, though, and say that even though Mike Myers, being a Canadian white guy, performing this role that is a very dubious premise anyway, that he's just a kid who was raised in India with the career path of being a guru. I actually like his voice. I think he made a clever, creative choice to have this wholly unique accent, sound, tone to his voice that I kept trying to place throughout the movie. And I think that was part of the fun of it, is just like, who is this guy? Like, is there even a world where that is a legitimate premise? The answer is probably no. But he made interesting choices in how the character uses language and how he uses his words. So I'll at least give Mike Myers a couple of points for trying with that, even if we can mostly say that that falls flat. So, yeah, there you go. That's my summary.
Does anyone have a better word than filth-tastic?
I don't want to call this
should.
film filth.
I was going to give it my flimsy.
Flimsy is better because we've been talking about filth, right? With like horror movies and really, we've been using filth often as a term of endearment recently.
Mhm.
And the problem with this film's not filthy enough. Like, it's just, it is flimsy. There's there's a bit of an idea here, but he didn't go far. Like Malk said, he didn't commit to a character. He's meant to be playing this guru character, but he's still making little Mike Myers the American aside throughout the whole film.
Yep.
I mean, you could also call it flim flam, like everything that Deepak Chopra has said, because this is a love letter to. I think I said earlier I was going to get into this. He became obsessed with Deepak Chopra, read all of his books around the time his father died. So therefore, I have to feel kind of bad for.
That's how grifters get you.
Him. Exactly. And is most vulnerable. He read a bunch of Deepak Chopra, became friends with him because Mike Myers was huge and he could be friends with anyone he wants. And then Deepak Chopra wrote an inspirational novel called Why Is God Laughing? The story of a comedian named Mickey Fellows who begins a spiritual quest after the death of his father. So basically, Deepak Chopra repaid him by plagiarizing the story of his life for a book, but Myers contributed the foreword to the book. Anyway,
but see that's the yeah, and I'm sorry, Mark, because you and I are on the same page here about this, and that is a big note that I took here for myself, is that I wanted this movie to be a takedown of these so-called gurus. I really, because I don't think that a guy like Deepak Chopra is just an innocent purveyor of feel-good wisdom. I mean, I think that these are opportunists who prey on vulnerable people, and they have crafted an industry of this feel-good self-help movement. And I love the statistic that the number one predictor of someone who will buy a self-help book is that they have already bought multiple self-help books. And if that is the case, that means that the self-help books aren't working. So they are just literally designed to keep bringing you back to buy more. And Deepak is one of the prime examples of an opportunist when it comes to that. But Mike Myers, I guess, was a little blinded by the light there. And that's, again, what makes his characters so kind of unrelatable and unapproachable, because we don't know if he believes what he's doing. Like you pointed out, Luke, it's a bit of this Eastern mystic wisdom that he has, but then he just does dumb Mike Meyer Americanism / Canadianism jokes thrown at you. So you never can tell his sincerity in any of this.
There's a little bit of insincerity to the character, because I think Mike Myers is a good enough comedian to know the funny version of this character is full of shit. But at the time in his life that he made this film, he couldn't admit that to himself. And so we get, like, to the very first thing he says, it's like, oh, he was my most stubborn student, but became my greatest teacher, or some shit like that. And that's the version of the character I wanted, where we know as the audience, he doesn't believe any of this, it's all bogus. But he doesn't quite commit to that in the film, and that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, there's not really an arc. It's like if, I mean, there are many ways that you can make this better, but the smarter version of this would be like Stephen Chow movies that he's directed, like Shaolin Soccer or Kung Fu Hustle, where he always starts out the movie as the worst guy on earth and then becomes God eventually. So if there was something like he's a total charlatan and then learns something, question mark, blank.
Yeah.
And
what was the Steve Martin movie where he plays the revival preacher?
I can picture the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You can. Yeah. But yeah, see also that, and I guess why I'm so harsh about this movie, compared at least to you guys, is that like, I think there's something very pure about a filth movie. If we're, there's something very pure about a filth movie where it's just people without talent who get together and just hack out, mostly horror, because horror is, high return on investment, low production costs. It's an easy way for most people to get into the business, as opposed to somebody who comes along who has talent, who has a proven track record, who has all the opportunity in the world to work with people who can make his own work better. And that to me is just like such a greater tragedy when it comes to something like this.
A leap of faith.
That's a much better way of putting what I was trying to say about this not being filth.
But also, But also, John, I definitely co-sign with you. The one I wanted always was the Sprockets movie, and that was, I mean, that and the Hans and Franz movies never happening, or sort of like the
Right.
greatest
Yeah.
tragedies. I
Yeah.
heard recently that Schwarzenegger said that he was disappointed that the Hans and Franz movie didn't happen. So I think he was supposed to
How
be
could
in
he
it.
not be? Yeah, exactly. How could he
So
not be?
I've got a 10-star review here.
Okay, go.
Incredibly funny movie. If you have a sense of humor, the
Oh,
username seems kind of offensive. Maybe I'll skip that. Um,
Okay.
I
All
I
right.
laugh at almost everything, but most comedy films are quite hit or miss. Love Guru got me. Mike Myers is a genius. It's clear the bad press it got tainted quite a few people's enjoyment of a truly great film. It is a bit culturally insensitive, but it isn't mean spirited. There is love in it. I definitely watch this again someday. People would enjoy a lot more if they put aside their delicate sensibilities. So that was the
Yeah.
problem, Luke. You didn't put aside your delicate sensibilities.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
delicate.
I'm woke, so you're not allowed to make comedies like me.
Yeah, no jokes. That's it. I wonder about the low rating on this. I think that there are some people who are downvoting it because it's racist, which is completely legitimate, and some people downvoting it because it is a Deepak Chopra love letter, which is also legitimate, which
Mhm.
probably that may have gotten become more of a thing since COVID started because
I will say
uh,
I watched this on Amazon Prime Video, where it has a really high user rating.
Oh, right.
It's like
Wow.
4.5 out of 5 stars.
I
Jeez.
didn't notice the rating when I was watching it.
I mean, we
So
don't
yeah,
talk
maybe normies do just enjoy this film.
we don't talk about what we would rate the movies, which we don't have to. But I was just thinking because, like you said, it seems skewed. I'm like, well, what would legitimately be my rating on a 10-star scale, which I don't rate things on. But I'm thinking, well, it'd be 3 or 4, so 3.8
Yeah, it would
seems
be
about
It
right.
would be
Yeah.
like a 5 for me. It would just be like a
yeah, it's I wouldn't put this below a 5. They're just funny enough. I I don't think I would downvote. I don't think I would dock a bunch of stars just for a bunch of racist jokes because that would just eliminate a ton. That's just a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
But you know, it is definitely. But and also, I don't even know how much of it the Indian angle is racism or how much of it is just that maybe Deepak Chopra has lost touch with his Indian roots and Mike Myers is completely just leeching off of his energy. I have no
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, the 4 of us are not the people to judge that, I don't think.
That's
Right.
good point.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
half Lebanese. That's not, has nothing to do with India at all. So
Look at
I
the
don't
names
get
on the
to.
screen again. We can judge whoever we want.
Yeah, affirmative
I
action.
know we're
can judge
coming up
anything.
on time, so this isn't necessarily the right time to start this conversation. But I was watching this film, like this is the end of like Mike Myers' career. And do we still have like comedy stars?
Hmm.
Like an actor brings out a comedy film, I'm gonna go see the new This Guy's film.
I feel at
Like
this
Will
point
Ferrell
in the
doesn't
game,
do
it's
it
like,
anymore.
yeah, at this point, it's like, well, Chris Pratt's pretty funny, but he doesn't make comedies, quite.
Right.
Well, that's it. Like when a
Right.
comedy comes out, it's they've got a serious actor playing against type. But who are the big comedy stars anymore? I don't think they exist.
I mean, I would go see a Will Ferrell movie if it looked like it was going to be good, or John C. Riley, but they're also
Yeah, but
doing
when was the
dramas.
last time one of their films was even in the theaters?
Right. It's
I
been a
don't know.
while.
Nothing's in the theaters
Yeah,
anymore.
we haven't had a recent SNL breakout, I guess. So
Well,
Yeah.
there is
Mhm.
Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which I will wholeheartedly recommend, even though it's not directly based on SNL characters. It has that vibe. Did any of you see that at all?
what was
I
the
never heard
title?
of that. But then,
Came out during the pandemic. It's basic Kristen Wiig and Annie Mimolo. I'm not familiar with Annie Mimolo, but they're just play a couple of just sort of square like Midwest ladies, and they go on vacation, and they're sort of like, oh gosh, and then they have threesomes and ridiculous stuff happens, and it's very funny and charming. And the box office was $32,000.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
came out in 2021, so that was a rough time. But
Oof.
I would recommend that. That is a much funnier film than this. And
I just added it to my watch list. Need that as
awesome.
a palate cleanser.
I think you'll be into it. It's pretty fun.
Um, Does anyone want to throw out a final thought on the Love Guru?
Yeah, just the one other note that I actually wrote down. This film has better third eye effects than Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it did.
That was a pretty good effect, and that was kind of
Yeah.
out of nowhere too. Yeah.
I think it's because it wasn't a CGI eye. They just copied one of the eyes and put it up here.
Right.
But it worked.
Maybe.
It looked great.
Yeah.
And they didn't do the
Yeah.
effects a week before it came out, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I've seen worse de-aging effects than the Mike Myers effect in this film. For
When it
sure.
was supposed to be serious, yeah.
I went into this thinking I would absolutely hate it, and I didn't hate it. And it was more racist than I thought it would be, and more hateful to little people, but it was funnier than I thought it would be. So
I went into it thinking I'd hate it, hoping I would secretly love it, but instead ended up being pretty meh on it.
I think I properly hated it.
I wanted to be somebody who could champion, to use that word. I wanted to champion a movie that got dumped on, because I don't mind doing that ever. I have lost count of the number of podcasts I've been on talking about my love of Flash Gordon. And yeah, Flash Gordon is cool again, but it wasn't cool, 7, 8, 10 years ago.
Don't worry. In the UK,
Yeah.
it was always cool.
There we go. Okay, those are my people.
I saw Flash
literally,
Gordon in
those are my
95.
people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take this movie and go, oh no, wait, I can still be a Mike Myers fan, because all of his movies have some redeeming thing, and this I could not find redemption. It is a straight up 3 out of 10, and it only gets those 3 points just because there are some moments and I laughed out loud, little bit of charm, but not much at all.
That's why
I wish he could have been on for a name of. Oh yeah, wish he could have been on
What's
for In
that?
the Name of the King, the Dungeon Siege Tale by Uwe Boll, which we all liked.
Yeah.
Nice.
And personally, I like
Nice.
Speed 2. I'm still talking about how I
Okay.
liked Speed 2. So
Very good.
you'll find something if you come on the bad list enough.
Oh,
Just
sure.
at
We
your own
haven't hit a
peril.
comedy yet
Yes.
that I think we want to champion, but
Hmm.
yeah, definitely.
well-
Honestly, I'd probably, because I think I said it on that podcast, but because it's only 2.5 hours long, I'd be more willing to watch Dungeon Siege again than say Lord of the Rings, because it's a much less commitment of time, right? And gives
Well,
you
you have to
are
watch Lord of the
incorrect
Rings.
for that.
I have to watch it. It's there. I'm ready for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
And you better be watching them extended editions.
they are.
No, I refuse. I
Then
refuse.
you're not watching Lord of the Rings.
Okay, well then I'm not watching Lord of the. Look, theatrical cuts is an art.
That's coming. Yeah, I got that one.
Whoa.
One of my favorite movies is The Wicker Man, the real one, and
Yes,
the 120-minute cut of that is too much. The theatrical cut is very good. I don't hate
I
the
want-
long cut, but
No.
Metropolis
When I'm a
should not be 3
billionaire,
hours.
I'm going to fund
Yes, true.
a project to go back and insert the cut Tom Bombadil scenes to the extended editions of Lord of the Rings and make them even longer.
I mean, okay, I did watch the extended version of Two Towers, and I didn't hate it, but it was I felt my ass would go to sleep, and then I thought it was never going to wake up.
Someone's never sat and watched the whole trilogy of extended editions in one day.
That's me. That's me right here.
Well, I get back to us with more Lord of the Rings chatter in what, 3 years? It's pretty high on. They're pretty high on the list.
Oh my God.
It's gonna stay there.
As for Noah, John, we didn't actually properly introduce you at the start. So if you want to tell,
Oh,
folks,
I need
what you're up to.
Yeah, don't need it.
He's
yeah,
a man who needs no introduction.
That's not true. Podcast.rodberry, podcast.rodberry.com for all the other shows that I do. So there you go. Mission Log, Trek Files, Mission Log Live, hopefully coming back to a podcast stream near you. Yeah, so go there, podcast.rodberry.com.
Back on Voyager.
Yes, back on Voyager. Very
Season
soon.
4.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. I need to put out the preview show tonight. So,
Oh yeah, dude.
yeah.
All right. As for us, Films of Filth, we're on we're on X at the moment. We're on Facebook, I think. If you really want to dig us, come to Patreon. That's podcastiopodcastius.com, where we do a whole lot of podcasts like Luke Loves Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report, Game, Showtime Enough podcast, and that other one. Podcast 1999, one we did
1999.
yesterday. I should remember that stuff. Okay.
That's funny because everything immediately leaves my podcasts immediately leave my mind as soon as I do them, and then I have to re-listen to them.
Oh, that's good for you.
To
Mine are
retain
the
the
early
information.
morning ones. The early morning ones are the ones I don't remember anything.
You guys haven't made me do a single early morning podcast yet. I'm very thankful.
It's because your early morning is like we're asleep, I think,
No, I mean you'd just be getting off work
or
probably,
at work.
or
Right.
at work.
Okay, well, I will just sign off by saying that
Mariska Hargitay.
calamari does not. Oh, sure, that's what you say. But I was going to say,
Yeah.
calamari does not taste like a skunk's bottom. Calamari is
Yes.
good.
You're right.
Okay, groove.
All right, gang. We
The
did
guru
it.
has been guru.
Yeah, we did it.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna hit
Brilliant.
the stop.